Tonight, fresh trouble on campus of University of Education Winneba as ousted Vice Chancellor storms campus to take back his position, claiming to be backed by a court order.
We are back to our offices today to resume our rightful positions, knowing that there is no court prohibition on us and no notice of indictment from Yoko.
There is heavy police presence on the campus tonight, with the two vice chancellors making claims to that position. We take you live to the campus of the university as armed police officers roam the streets there to avert trouble.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, also brought to you by Gasem, the nation builder, Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready. And there is heavy armed police presence on the campus of the University of Education Winneba tonight because they ousted former Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Avoke, today returned with a team of other aggrieved former staff of the university to take back the position of the Vice Chancellor. Now, he came claiming to be armed by court order and processes that he says cleared him of any abuse of his office. He's been addressing a news conference from the University of Education Winneba, where there has been a heavy deployment of police officers tonight to avert trouble. I want to take you live now there. My colleague Kojo Nyako is following this for us tonight, and he's on the line with us right now. Kojo, thank you for joining me. Give us a sense of what happened today.
Well, what happened essentially was that in the morning, at about 8 a.m. thereabouts, the former principal officers of the university, the former vice chancellor, Professor Mauto Avoke, and other principal officers who were dismissed some few months ago stormed the university campus. They claim that they have a court order to come and occupy their position. They say that Iyoko, after their investigations, exonerated them of any wrongdoing, and as such, the position of the vice chancellor and other positions that have been filled currently should be relinquished to them, and so they are going to occupy their office. So what happened essentially after that was that they wanted to go to the council chamber to organize a press conference announcing his comeback, but they were restrained by the police personnel that were there, and so the press conference was done at the advantage of the university administration. So this is Professor Mauto Avoke addressing the press.
As you are all probably aware, the anti-graft agency Yoko, following a sustained probe into a number of allegations leveled against 6 officers of the university, including me, by the Professor Abekale Governing Council of the University of Education, concluded in black and white that we did not abuse our offices, nor were we in violation of any procurement process. This allegation formed the basis on which we were removed from office. It's also interesting to know that these dismissals were made despite the pendency of the case at the Supreme Court of the land at the time. We are back to our offices today to resume our rightful positions, knowing that there is no court prohibition on us and no notice of indictment from Yoko. We are delighted that the government institution, Yoko, has been professional and did a thorough independent investigation. This is clear evidence of a state institution working to ensure justice and fairness to its citizens. Way forward. During our press conference on the 16th April 2019, we argued for unity and harmony in the University of Education Winneba as an important basis for growth and ensure a conducive environment for scholarship. The time has now come to realize these ideals. We are determined to sustain such an enabling environment, working together with all relevant stakeholders. In that press conference, I also forgave Reverend Father Professor Fobroni and Professor Becker for the roles they had played in this whole saga, this whole issue, and indicated a willingness to be part of a conversation to reconcile the university. Indeed, since that press conference, I have made a number of overtures. For example, contacting some members of faculty who has strong views against us through phone calls for the need for all to consider the greater interests of the university as foremost. I have gone on to discuss with them how we can all come together to rebuild the broken bridges of trust to ensure peace, harmony within the university. Given the task ahead of us, these will be critical in refocusing the university and strategically positioning for further growth, fairness, and equal opportunity for all staff. For me, my foremost priority is to strive for genuine reconciliation among all staff and faculty. It is only when genuine reconciliation is achieved can we restore the university to a functioning unit to leave its mandate. We will work with relevant stakeholders to ensure this is achieved in the shortest possible time. Distinguished university guests, we wish to thank the government, members of parliament, the legislatures, the Winneba community and the larger Ghanaian community, students and staff of the university, president of the security service for their support. We are grateful for the numerous support from well-wishers within Ghana and outside of it.
That is a really fascinating press conference by Professor Avoke, and he is the ousted, and I say ousted, he was removed, and a new vice chancellor, Professor Afo-Broni, was installed. At that event, at his investiture, the president of the republic was there to bless him, and he's been serving since. He's had his own problems at the university, but he's still the substantive incumbent as far as vice chancellor is concerned. But here we are. Professor Avoke also shows up today saying he's claiming that he's even forgiving Afo-Broni, thanking people, laying out a roadmap to uniting the campus, etc. Kodinako is still with me on the line. Kodinako, he wasn't allowed to do this on the premises of the university. The security guys simply pushed him off, and he did it in front of the university, correct?
Yes, he wanted actually to occupy the council chamber to organize a press conference there. So the media houses were invited and they came in their numbers. And he said that, well, he has the full powers. He's been armed by the High Court to go back to occupy his position. But what we have cited, or what we have seen, is an application to the High Court by an individual from praying the court to grant them a restraining order on the vice president to prevent him from holding himself as a vice president and others that are also being cited in the same
and that, Kojo, is a curious case, and we'll look at that document shortly, whether it indeed gives him the authority he claims he wields to come back and take his position as the vice chancellor. But you say that since this became an issue, there's been a deployment of armed police officers on campus?
Yes, around midday, I could count about 9 police vehicles that were stationed at the university. And in the morning, they came in their numbers, and that is why they were able to prevent the ousted former vice chancellor of the university from entering the premises. As we speak, we do not know the whereabouts of the incumbent or the present vice chancellor, Professor Anthony Afo-Broni. And so the university was thrown into a state of some chaos because the campus was at a standstill and everyone was caught watching whatever was going to transpire, whether the former vice chancellor would be allowed to go to his office to work as a substantive vice chancellor, or whatever would happen. And so that is what is currently happening. As we speak, the security deployment is still there. There is heavy security present because they do not want to be taken unawares by any event that will start some chaos or confusion on campus.
I see. School is not in session. The university is on vacation, correct?
Yes, the university is on vacation, but there are other academic activities that are going on there. There are MPhil students, there are doctoral students that are also there, supervision, research, and other things are going on. But for administrative staff, they are still working, and so they are at post.
Okay, and you mentioned we don't know where the incumbent, Afo-Broni, the professor who is still the incumbent vice chancellor, we don't know where he is now.
He's not spoken a word about what has been happening today. We have not seen him on campus today, but we were told that he was in his office working.
And you mentioned, just clarify this for me very briefly, Mr. Avoke, the former vice chancellor, came there in the company of other former staff of the university. Who are these?
Well, we saw the former UTAC president, Ketri Duku, the former finance officer, and other and 4 other people that were also there. They were part of the press conference that was organized. They were standing behind the vice chancellor, the outside vice chancellor.
Kojo, thank you very much for that. Keep an eye on that. We'll come back to you. And he just mentioned one of the individuals who accompanied the former vice chancellor was Ketri Duku, who is a former UTAC president. And UTAC is the University Teachers Association of Ghana, of the University of Education, Winneba. Thankfully, he joins me on the line right now. Mr. Duku, thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Good evening, sir. But let me make a quick correction here, sir.
Good.
I'm still the incumbent UTAC president.
You are so. Good. Okay. Thank you very much for that correction. Kindly hold the line for me. There's something I need to clarify shortly because we got a document that had been circulated today by Professor Avoke that seemed to raise some additional questions. My colleague, Akable, has been looking at that document, and this is the document that we are told Mr. Avoke brandished today when he got to the campus, seeking to suggest that it sort of gives him a certain authority to take back the position. But what is this document exactly?
So it's actually an application asking the courts to enforce the University of Education Act. So the document is not a court decision. In fact, it was filed by Kingsley Amwakwa, who introduces himself as a senior staff of the University of Education, Winneba. It's an application that was filed today at 9:02 a.m. And the reliefs that this application is asking, a number of them. The first one is a declaration. The first relief that is being sought is an order restraining the first respondent, that is Professor Anthony Afu-Broni, from holding himself out as the Vice Chancellor or performing any such functions in that capacity of the University of Education, Winneba. It also is asking for an order restraining Professor Afu-Broni from continuously interfering in the administration of Professor Mauto Avoke, the legitimate Vice Chancellor of the University of Education, Winneba. The third is that the asking that he's again restrained from walking or driving within the precincts of the main administration block of the University of Education, Winneba. And it goes on to make other requests. And the important thing we must note is that this application that has been filed, they are asking the court that they want to move this application on Wednesday, 31st of July, 2019 at 9 a.m. And it's actually an application on notice. And so it's a motion on notice like it reads, which obviously means that the defendants in this matter, Professor Anthony Afu-Broni and the University of Education, Winneba, will obviously have to be served and make an appearance on the
in that document. I see he also make references to some IOCO documents that he claims gives him the green light. It's actually in the affidavit that was sworn by Kingsley Amwakwa. He makes the point that there has since been a Yoko report. So he makes the point that the Governing Council of the University of Education, Winneba, widely published that Professor Avoke was under Yoko investigation. But to my surprise, even when the findings exonerated Professor Avoke, the first respondent, that is Professor Afu-Broni, is employing certain unpardonable tactics aimed at preventing him from peacefully performing his duties as Vice Chancellor. He says that the government, through the sector minister, admonished Professor Afu-Broni and the university to ensure that the peaceful assumption of office of Professor Mauto Avoke, but all fell on deaf ears. So he's claiming that the government had actually asked Professor Broni to allow him to take over?
Take over, yes.
But if this has happened, this is not public because the president was there just
at the installation of Professor Afu-Broni as Vice
and blessed him as Vice Chancellor. So this is news to me. We work in the phone line to see if we can get some clarity on this. But let me bring in Mr. Duku. Mr. Duku, so you from what I understand, you accompanied Professor Avoke today.
Yes, I did.
And tell me what prompted your visit to the school today? Because I'm reading. Is this document?
No, I'm still an employee of the university, so I do go to work every day.
Okay, but what you understand why Avoke went there? You say you accompany him. Why?
Yes, because he's going to take his lawful position as the VC of the university. Individuals are intentionally preventing him from occupying his office, and he believes that justice must be prevailed. So having gone to court and having restrained the person who is preventing him from going to office, he thought it was right for him to go and work. And
you make a reference. You make a reference to a restraint, the same reference that Mr. Avoke makes. You don't have any restraint, do you? You just made an application to the court for that order.
I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that when it's served, it takes effect. Injunction takes effect the moment you receive it, and therefore we believe that from that moment Professor Afuboni could not consider himself as a vice chancellor of UW again. And therefore, we can't create a vacuum. Whoever was the substantive vice chancellor before the application must then come back to office. That's why we went to office today.
So you're taking this action based on your interpretation of what an application means?
Based on the exoneration of Yoko report, a statutory body that is mandated to investigate criminal activities in the country.
Oh, and when did you become aware of the Yoko report?
Oh, we know somewhere in April, Professor Avoke had a press conference stating that he was briefed and he has a copy of that report indicating that he has been exonerated. If you look at point 7 of that report, it's rather the current or the person who is considering himself as the vice chancellor of the university now who was more or less indicted. And because he doesn't want to face the court or the law, that's why he's now incumbent-ing himself as the vice chancellor of the university, which we believe is wrong.
So you had this. You say the basis of your action today was the Iyoko report, which you knew of it and had it in April, May, June, July. You didn't take any action on it until today because you filed an application.
No, because we believe. I'm sure everybody knows that Professor Mauta Avoke is a law-abiding individual. He wanted the process to work. When Professor Yanka, the sector minister, came to UW on our matriculation somewhere in June, he admonished the existing vice chancellor and indicated that he doesn't want a situation where we have two vice chancellors in the university. So he needed to do the needful. He has more or less closed his ears to every advice made to him by the president, the sector minister, the minister for education, and the rest. So we believe it has come to a point that if he, being inducted by Iwoko's report, is not prepared to go to court, then he should leave the office for the one who is rightfully better to occupy that position.
And yet, the man claims to be the legitimate occupant of that position, and yet the security forces removed him from the campus. He had to do a press conference in front of the campus.
Yes, the police were served with a copy of the motion paper. And we were expecting them to at least abide by them, but they told us that Winneba is under Swedru, which is also under Kikus, and they need an authority from above. Not that they drove us away, but they wanted us, the fact that they don't have a clear interpretation of whatever transpired, they need that from their boss. And therefore, they were entreating us not to cause any trouble for them. And being a law-abiding individual, we succumbed to that, and we gave them the space.
But Mr. Duku, you see where the issue is here. You've taken this step today, brandishing an application you've made to the court on the 23rd of July, 2019, 23rd of July, which means something that you did today. And you say the mere fact that you've made an application to the court and citing some Iyoko report, then you should be reinstated or you should take a rightful place. Isn't that an issue for you?
This injunction was not to pave way for Professor Avoke.
I'm sorry. This is not an injunction. You are applying, you say yourself, for a restraining order, so he cannot hold himself out.
This restraining order was not to pave way for Professor Avoke to enter into office, but to restrain the one who is preventing him from entering into office to leave that.
An application which the court is yet to even consider.
And therefore, once the person is served, he cannot still hold himself as such.
And who you say he served? Did you meet Professor Afuboni and served and gave it to him?
Yes, he has been served.
No, hold on. Who did you give it to? Himself?
Yes, he has served. He picked the application. He picked it himself.
You how do you know this?
The bailiff has given us a copy of the proof of service that he was served personally, and the university too has been served.
Okay, so you filed just a second. You filed this application today in court at 9 o'clock or so, and you say that only today the bailiff met with Professor Brony and gave him a copy and served him personally.
Sure, that's what I'm saying, sir.
And you know this for sure because you were there.
Yes, and I have a proof of service
Okay.
That the university was served, that Professor Fubuni was served personally.
And you say because he's been served, he must automatically leave office.
Yes, because he's restraining Professor Advocate from coming to office. So once you have been served with this restraining order, you must pave way for him to come and work.
So currently, as we speak, there are police officers on campus trying to make sure that this doesn't degenerate, because we know that the university has been in turmoil. You are interpreting an application to mean you could go ahead and you must step aside, and because you're a lecturer, you're a UTAG president on campus. You don't think the right thing to do is to wait for the court to decide on this before you make this move?
The police on campus did not come because of Professor Advocate's entry. Police have been on campus over a week ago. And I'm sure you realize that last week when Professor Afuboni was being served with another injunction order, he was running away. And he called the police because he believed his life was at threat. And therefore, the police came there last week to protect him. And they have been there since. So when Professor Advocate attempted going to office again today, that is when he now called the police. They are already on campus to come from where they are as his resident to the administration block. Not that this police moved from anywhere to campus. They have been in residence all this while. Now, as to whether we will allow the court to proceed or not, we have been law-abiding. We want the court to do that. But for the fact that he has also been said, the best is if we are not going, he should also be restrained until the court determines who has the right to go to the office.
So okay. So as we speak, Professor Advocate is not on campus, CC.
No, he doesn't stay on campus, and it's after 5 o'clock, so he has closed for work.
He's closed for work, but he when you say he's closed for, as if he was working today from the campus.
Yeah, he went there to work today.
So he worked from where? From the office of the vice chancellor?
He was restrained by the incumbent vice chancellor.
Is he? So he left. Is he going to return tomorrow?
Yes, we will go every day.
Sorry, say that again.
Tomorrow morning. Yes, he's going tomorrow morning.
So he will return to the university tomorrow morning.
He's going to work. Tomorrow morning.
He will go to work tomorrow. But you know, Professor Boni is still in occupying that office.
He must then leave the office for whoever is rightful to be there. You know very well that
aren't you creating a recipe? You are creating a recipe for some chaos.
Why are you also allowing somebody who is unlawfully in that seat not to get away? For how many times or how many years must Professor Advocate wait for his turn? You were supposed to be a caretaker vice chancellor. The Yoko has given his report. Leave office for the person who is rightful to come, and you are preventing him. And you want that person now to stay and fold his arm and wait for when you are comfortable to leave. Is that how we interpret laws in Ghana? That should not be allowed. So I believe whoever is lawful and whoever wants the law to work in Ghana should advise the man to leave. Because on 17th July 2017, when Professor Buke was instructed not to go to office by the court, he did not step there until today. He obeyed the law. So why is the current DG not also obeying the law? There's
something you said that Professor Buke also repeated, that during the matriculation recently, the Minister of Education, in charge of tertiary education, was on the campus and had publicly asked that Professor Bruni make way, correct?
Yes, sir.
I want to fact check that very quickly because my colleague Kojo Nyako was there and joins me on the line with more on this. Kojo Nyako, is this true?
That the education minister asked the vice chancellor to step down?
Yes, Kojo.
No, that is not true. That is not a matter of public record. There is no record indicated because I was personally at the matriculation ceremony. I never heard that the education minister was asking the vice chancellor to step aside.
Okay, so but at this event, did he make any reference to a peaceful resolution of any issue?
Yes, The peaceful resolution has been, echoed by even the president himself when he came for the investiture, asking for an amicable solution to whatever the problem was. And then all the speeches that have been made at the university have been asking for an amicable solution. I remember the former pro-vice chancellor of the University of Cape Coast, who is an alumnus of the university, made this passionate call that there should be an amicable solution. If, for anything, they should dissolve the governing council and then the entire university management and a new and an interim management board to be put in place. But there hasn't been a call by the education minister for the current vice chancellor to step aside.
Mr. Duku, here you have it. The evidence doesn't support the claims you've made.
No, maybe your reporter didn't have a full copy of the affidavit that we saw in court. A copy of the minister's speech was attached. And if I may read a portion of it for you, which we have here, and I'm sure maybe later on you can find out from the minister whether he said that or not. We have it in written. And this is what he read on that day. Any sign of an emerging drama in Winneba of two vice chancellors in one university will, of course, be anonymous and not acceptable. But we expect the governing council of UW to take steps to broker a resolution ahead of a bizarre possibility. And that is where we are. Because the
is that are you done reading the quote?
No, I'm done reading the portion that I want you to have. It's a whole.
Okay, so that is the portion you're highlighting for me.
Yes, I'm giving
but,
you an
No, but what you just read didn't say that Professor Bruni should leave for Professor Advocate to take over. It said they should achieve a peaceful resolution, which is exactly what my reporter said he heard the minister say.
An emerging sign in Winneba of two vice chancellors in one university.
Yes.
So if the minister did not acknowledge that Professor Advocate was a legitimate vice, what was he saying that? He said that because he wanted them to do
that is one far-fetched interpretation of what you just read. That because he says that you cannot have two vice chancellors, when he was there with the president to bless the man who is currently there, you said that means that he's somehow agreeing that Professor Advocate is the man and not Professor Bruni. That's a really far-fetched interpretation.
Now, I don't know at what point you are interpreting this information I'm giving you.
You are interpreting. I'm just questioning that interpretation.
No, I'm just quoting what the man
but
said.
What you quoted doesn't say. What you quoted doesn't say in black and white. Doesn't say that one is a legitimate and the other is not. And in fact, because the minister, was with the president to install the current man, why would he come back and say the man he just installed?
That wasn't the time that the current man was installed.
I get the point you're making.
That was way days after, when UOCO has then released its report. At the time that they were swearing in Professor Advocate, Professor Apoboni, that UOCO report was not in. So it's literally when UOCO report came in, and they saw that no, this man was not indicted in any way.
Okay, Mr. Duku, so as we speak,
legitimately.
Can
I please make my point?
Very briefly, sir.
Let me land you half.
Okay, sure.
So certainly, once UOCO has cleared it, then legitimately he's also a vice chancellor, and we have gone ahead to swear in another vice chancellor. So the bizarre becomes a point that we will have two vice chancellors in a university, and that is what he was advising them not to get to that point. And they refused to take steps to do the honors. And today we've gotten to the point that Professor Advocate feels legitimately he occupies